Hi, everyone, and welcome to our True Women's Health Facebook Live. Tonight, we're going to talk about body positivity and finding that balance between how do I love myself, but also try to feel healthy and make some changes that maybe I know I need to have and maybe I don't want to, and that's okay too. Tonight, we're actually going to have my nurse, Becca Ribbens, join us. So Becca, you may know, is our nurse, one of our nurses, lovely nurses here at True Women's Health. And, we asked her to join us because not only are our nurses sort of integral parts of our patient practice, but she's a woman living in 2022 with all the outside influences that are on us as women, right between social media, news, other forms of media, our friends, our family. And she has her own journey that she was so lovingly willing to share with us and sort of talk tonight. Welcome, Becca.
Hi, thank you.
Yeah, I know that we see each other obviously all day, every day, but we so appreciate the role that you play in our patients' lives. So thank you so much for coming on.
Oh, well, I'm glad to help and maybe help others and like share what I've learned through working here and just kind of seeing how you interact with patients and kind of how that's changed my mindset a bit too.
Awesome. And so we hope that tonight is very interactive. So if anyone that's watching has any questions or comments or topics that they want to talk about in terms of finding this balance between kind of how do we find health and also sort of learning to accept our bodies with where they're at, please feel free to send a question and any other comments that sort of may be available. So, all right, Becca, let's get into some definitions. So, when we think about body positivity, I think that it's really interesting to think a little bit about the history of where those words come. So, the terminology body positivity actually came out of the psychotherapy world from a psychotherapist who was treating and actually recovering herself from anorexia. And so, for those of you who don't know, anorexia is a disease where patients really struggle with their relationship with food, and particularly they have more of a restrictive eating pattern to the point where they sort of get dangerously low in body mass and weight, and it's really a very serious mental health problem. So, from that world, they've come up with the term body positivity, and officially one of the main parts of body positivity is this definition. How to learn to uncover the messages that have influenced your relationships with your body, food, and exercise, and develop a weight neutral, health centered approach to self care to become the authority of your own body by sorting out the facts from distorted societal myths about health, weight, and identity. That's sort of a beautiful definition, don't you think?
Yeah, I didn't know that history of it either.
Yeah. And I think it's really interesting because when I sort of talk with patients about body positivity, and I know that we see it a lot, I sort of see a couple of different pathways that body positivity goes. So one pathway is unfortunately, used a lot by maybe companies or other influencers that sort of co-ops these words and using you to sort of convince maybe a woman that they need to lose more weight, but like for some reason it's like in a positive, they use the spin on body positivity to create a sense of shame, maybe around someone's exercise program, maybe they're not doing enough, not being restrictive enough around their eating. But we use these like kind of cushy words with body positivity, and at times that can feel like maybe you're not doing enough in this arena to be as healthy as you could be, but like it's coming off as a body positivity way. Do you feel like as a woman kind of looking through social media that you maybe feel some of that from time to time?
Totally. Yeah, totally. Like I'll read something and then it's like, they'll put the spin of body positivity on it, but then it's like, okay, what is the underlying message here that you're trying to, pitch? And so
Yeah,
that's sometimes hard to like understand.
totally. And I know that I definitely know within our own patient population, a lot of the times patients may come in with kind of unrealistic expectations as to what could medically happen in terms of health changes, particularly around weight, I would say. And a lot of the times it's sprung from a lot of the messaging that comes from maybe social media, right? In a sense that it's like a patient may say, like, I heard in a month that I could lose 20 to 40 pounds. right? Which
Mhm.
is like almost 10 to 20% of a lot of our patients' body weight. And it comes with this sort of caveat that if only they did maybe this one thing, that sort of, treasure box would be open, so to speak,
Mhm.
for them. And I think the feeling, if you are a patient and you're wondering, how did I sort of get in that place and where am I going? Is if we get that feeling of shame and negativity that's surrounding that messaging, right? And I know that I definitely have felt that way when I'm either listening or reading or seeing something, that maybe I get that sprig of like, ooh, I kind of feel bad about this, right? I
Mhm.
feel bad that maybe I didn't do this, or I did do this activity. And it sort of creates that sense of shame. In a lot of ways, that should really be our first red flag that maybe this is like a messaging that's probably not a great place for us to be in.
Yeah. Yeah, I feel like the body positivity thing that I see is like just to be accepting of like kind of where you're at. But then when I think like, okay, I'm being body positive, then I don't want to make those changes for my body because I'm like,
Yeah.
I want to love where I'm at. But then it's hard because it's like, I want to love where I'm at and I do love my body and I'm thankful for all my body has done. But I also then like get in this mindset of then not wanting to make healthy choices because I want to like love where I'm at.
Yeah.
So it's
And
that like
yes,
mindset for me.
it's definitely finding that balance, right? And so then the other sort of complete swing of the spectrum that we see in using these words of body positivity is patients who maybe need to make some other health choices, but sort of are leaning into, but I'm going to be like, I don't want to use the word, I'm going to just sort of let things be the way that they are,
Mhm.
and maybe not acknowledge that there's areas that I could maybe improve my health, right?
Yep.
But it's definitely a struggle.
Yeah, I think the body positivity definition, the second one is more how I lean. Like,
Yeah.
yeah, like I don't want to, yeah, it's difficult finding that balance, I think, as like, like you said at the beginning, with all the different things that are thrown at you, like, if friends are telling you this and this is how I'm thinking, or, it's a
Yeah.
lot on young women and on women in general, just to know like how to
Yeah.
view their bodies
Yeah.
without, because if you think of it negatively, like body negative, then that enters that shame piece too, where
Yeah. And I think sometimes the cycle that a lot of women who are unsure of where to go fall in does sort of revolve around shame and distress. Because in one avenue, maybe they'll say, oh, like I want to be body positive. I'm not going to worry about my weight, but yet I'm kind of struggling with my relationship with food, right? Maybe I'm leaning on food too hard and or food or alcohol too hard, and it's leaving me feeling fatigued, mentally kind of out of it, anxious at times. I can't sleep. Maybe my libido's not where I want to be. And that in itself is creating some stress and confusion around different things. And then it gets really frustrating, I think, because it creates this cycle of, well, wait a minute, I maybe want to be healthy, but at the same time, I sort of want to be body positive. And it just is a very interesting space.
yeah, I totally agree.
I know our patients really struggle with this. I know we've had a couple of patients in particular. Well, I will say not just patients here at True Women's Health, but in general, the entire time that I've ever been working in obesity medicine, the struggle with patients and their family members and friends is very difficult, right? And so the common scenario is, we'll have a patient come in, they're excited to get started, they have some health goals, maybe they'll start reaching some of those health goals, right? Learning to eat healthier, getting on an exercise program, maybe losing weight, getting other things underway. And it's almost like clockwork that, like, the third or fourth visit, they'll be like, I feel great, but my
Mhm.
friends say that I'm being too restrictive, or my
Mhm.
friends say that this is not a good plan. And it really puts people in like it kind of feels between a rock and a hard place, that maybe you're saying, well, I'm trying to be healthy, but at the same time, I'm hearing all these other messages from family and friends that, like, I shouldn't be doing this, and it creates
Mhm.
a lot of tension.
Yeah. Yeah. And even if it's coming from a good place, people are trying to
100%.
support you, and even as close as husbands or moms or whatever, like it's all coming from such a good place, but they want to see you healthy
Yeah,
too, but also um I think just focusing on then people who you can trust, and that's your opinion, I think, as a obesity medicine doctor as compared to like your aunt or whoever. I think
right.
that's where people need to cling, but
Like,
it is hard when you get those varying opinions and you want to make them happy, you want to make them feel comfortable. If
right.
if you're not making that healthy choice, or you are making a healthy choice and they're not, and that kind of puts even
Yeah,
pressure or shame on them. So
yeah.
it's so multifaceted.
And I think something that we talk a lot about with patients in that space, right, is that it can be really hard for our family members, right, who maybe are dealing with their own, I don't know, internal battle of what am I
Mhm.
going to do about my health, right? To see someone maybe making changes. It's kind of like holding up a mirror to our own habits.
Yeah.
They're sort of saying, and that's kind of a hard thing to see, right? Like to lose your eating buddy, to lose your drinking
Yeah.
buddy. And so a
Yeah.
common reaction is to sort of kind of lash back out a little bit and say, what you're doing is, unhealthy. And that's why it's so imperative. That's why we love waypoints or the who am I points at True Women's Health, because we think one of our main priorities for as providers, as clinicians here at our clinic, is to really put some goal setting so that you as a patient are driven to your own health goals, and we allow a space to sort of reflect on what those health goals would mean. So, I don't know, Becca, do you ever think about your milestone event? Or I sort of think about mine a lot of the time. Do you ever think about
Um,
what that
yeah,
means?
I mean, I feel like I haven't really nailed one down for sure, for sure. My husband and I are going to Mexico this
Awesome.
winter, and I don't really have a specific like goal. I want to feel like confident. I want to feel like great. I want to fit
Yeah.
into my dresses that I wore, a couple summers ago. And so I guess that would be my like short term one.
Your short-term picture of self in terms of like where you
Yeah.
want to be at that moment.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
I think it's a good like thing to have like a day, because instead of saying like, oh, by next year, because that's sometimes
Mhm.
then not like measurable. So yeah, I have kind of a goal set in my head of where I'd like to be like physically, weight wise, but also just like in what type of mental place, and
Yeah.
even like relationship wise, I think. So
Mhm.
the milestone event I think is really cool. What we do here at True, instead of just saying like my goal is to lose 50 pounds, it's like, okay, where is your milestone event, and like
Yeah.
what pieces do you want to
Yeah.
see like happen, and it's not just the number. And so I think that's really great for goal setting.
And I think, something we always make this joke kind of at our true weight journey as an obesity medicine doctor. I actually care about weight the least, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because there's so many other factors that are involved with our bodies and our minds that I actually care a lot more for patients than just sort of that one number. I'm
True.
just gonna
Yeah.
pause and
You
say,
can see Danielle commented like the same
yeah,
thing, like it's not about a specific weight. Like I do think feeling confident means so much more. If I
yeah,
feel confident, that, that's way better than something that can go up and down just with small things like with weight, but the confidence is huge. And I
yeah.
really like see you promote that and like talk about that with patients a lot. And I think that's really cool.
Yeah. And I think it's really helpful to, um, I love the official definition of body positivity, which is sort of trying to uncover those messages that are influencing our choices around our weight, around our health, maybe around our eating patterns that we're not even privy to, because it can swing sort of in both directions,
Mhm.
right? And one of the most common phrases that I think is super important, that I say to patients probably over and over again is, our weight is not our worth, right? So many people do sometimes come to us and say, if only I could lose 10 pounds, then somehow I would be worthy. If only I could, right, get to this place, then somehow it would be worth it for me to do something. And we hope that one of our messages that we like to bring is that every woman is worthy, no matter what their weight is, right?
Mm-hmm.
And we hope that we can get everyone to their health goals, no matter where they're starting. And it can be really sort of difficult to kind of be in that space where you're learning that. I know it's taken me a long time to,
Mm-hmm.
I'm still a work in progress about learning that, but especially with all the messaging, but that's, I think, something just to hear again and again, that our weight is not our worth and that there's so much more to us than just that. And Rachel sort of added a comment, that how, looking at our milestone event sort of beyond the numbers is so important. And yes. Oh my gosh, yes. Thank you, Rachel, for sharing so much of how you feel about feeling strong and confident and sort of what that means in your milestone event, sort of beyond the numbers game. Oh, and
Yeah.
thank you so much for participating with our program.
And sometimes too, when we weigh patients or whatever, it's like there can feel discouragement. Oh, I only lost this amount of weight. But then I do try to say, okay, but how are you feeling? And it's like shocking. Sometimes people will say, oh, I'm sleeping better. Or, oh, I had, like for me, I have more energy to get up off the couch with my kids, where even if I'm not seeing that number that I want to see, it's like, that's a small gain. And we need to see that as like a really large gain,
Yeah.
So I think that's, a really big piece like Rachel was talking on. Like it doesn't have to be the number, but we still want to like shoot for those goals in order to make us feel confident and strong.
Yeah.
And that all goes together.
Yeah.
So,
and Vicky asked a question, in our weight program, do you offer consulting to get to the root of the way we weigh? The reason for why our body has decided to hold on to that number for what our adipose tissue will be is complicated, right? To say the least. And there's a lot of different factors between things that have happened to us, meaning different life events, different journeys like pandemics and things like that have happened to us. And then a lot of things that are happening inside our body that are leading our brain to decide what it wants our weight to be. Another big factor that we obviously have nothing to do with, right, is our body's response to menopause, right? So menopause is our ovaries declining their production of estrogen, and that is very much intertwined with our brain and our liver and our fat cells as to what these numbers are going to be. So yes, we do really try to get at the root problem of understanding all that, with the caveat though of there's a lot of different factors and some we can control, and we try our hardest to seek all those things out. But then with holding on in the space of there's some things that we can't control, and that we're going to sort of be there and understand what that means and try our best to sort of optimize all these different areas of health, including getting patients physically stronger, getting our sleep under better control, getting our relationship with food better, and optimizing any medications that need to be used as sort of a plan. And just to sort of do a brief overview of how we kind of think about our weight journey, we have a pyramid that I think can be really helpful in terms of understanding where to go. So the primary thing that we work with in terms of our weight journey is sort of thinking about our mindset. So what's our relationship with food? What's our relationship with others, right? And sort of seeing how that goes. So I don't know, Becca, do you find that piece has been helpful, or I think that's probably a new piece that have thought about from other offices.
Yeah. So I think mindset's the biggest piece, like you were saying, and maybe that's why you programmed it to be on the top.
Yeah.
But I think it's true. I mean, you go through life with different mindsets in regards to Monday dieting and, no carbs, intermittent fasting, and like how you even just view getting healthy. And I think for me, it truly has to just be like a mindset change. Like, this is not something I'm doing until Mexico. This is like what I want to do for my life, because I want to be healthy for myself, for my family. Like I want, so even just that like process of changing that, I think really gets me to a healthier mindset. And yeah, I view it differently having that mindset. And before I came here, I did not have that. I remember like interviewing, I'm like, oh no, this weight doctor, what's this going to be about? And it's like, it's been so refreshing to see like your perspective and your mindset towards it instead of like fad diets or try this reduced calorie or do this. Like it's more mindset, I think is huge. So yeah, that's been a big piece for me.
Yeah, and I think it's really interesting because part of the mindset piece is learning to sort of be comfortable with where we're at, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because, you know, a lot of times, particularly hunger, right? We can learn to feel how women have basically have been trained is to feel very resentful of any hunger that we have, right? I'm hungry. Ugh, that means I have to eat more. I'm going to get fatter. That's going to move me away from my goals, which, like,
Yeah.
it's rare that a woman's goal is ever to gain weight, right? So we just, like, in our heads, we just get trained to just be so angry if we're hungry.
Yeah.
And what we hope to do is to sort of be curious in the space. Am I hungry? Is this really hunger? It's okay that I'm hungry. How do I sort of learn to eat in this space and feed my body fuel and not just sort of feed it for the sake of chasing my tail, right? Of just trying to get it, just to quiet it down enough so it doesn't bother me, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then let going of any sort of that shame that comes with having overwhelming senses of hunger and cravings. Other ways that we help patients. So, of course, I mean, nutrition is such an important piece. And we really try to come up with plans that sort of make sense for people. We have ideas, and I always say I could like lay out a plan for everyone, right? But a lot of that is really complicated by people's work schedules and family meals and availability and logistics of cutting up food and getting it ready. And there's a lot of factors that are at play. And so we try to make sure that we're accommodating for everybody and not just have a one size fits all nutritional plan. And then thirdly, we just try to get everyone's medication sort of optimized, including all the seeing if patients are candidates for any of the FDA approved medications that are there. If people have a medical history of obesity or any other medical problems that come with having extra weight. And of course, we all love getting our hormones under control. So optimizing any sort of hormones that are there. And the inside, really important things: stability, being heart strong, muscle strong, serenity, getting our stress levels under control. It's very difficult to lose weight if we're kind of clamped up and stressed all day from whatever reason. And as anyone who went through the COVID pandemic and was cooped up knows, right? It's real easy to gain weight real quick when we're stressed.
Mm-hmm.
And then lastly, making sure that all of our patients are thinking about sleep and sort of optimizing their sleep. And so that's a lot of how we sort of help people. And then in that context of, just sort of staying positive about our bodies and understanding that our bodies sort of write the rules, right?
Mm-hmm.
There's things that happen to us, right? That, the way that our food is made, the different way that the different chemicals and things that are in our water and our food that are interacting with our body's ability to gain or lose weight, and then our ability to control some of the choices we have and sort of what that means.
Yeah.
One of the biggest areas, Becca, that I think we just need to pause on for a second, which I think is very sort of high on our list. So you're a mom, as am I. I have 3 little boys, but I know you have a little girl.
Yep.
And I think the topic of body positivity is just so important, just as mothers, because I think that we're trying to be good role models for our kids. And it really adds this complicated layer to our own health journey.
Yeah. Another layer of mom guilt, right? No, I just, it's true. When you have kids or you have other people, even, just looking at you, you want to be that example. And I have a 4-year-old daughter and 4-year-old son. And then I just had a 4-month-old or have a 4-month-old, but, I just really want to show them what like health looks like, how it looks for mom to, prioritize exercise because that makes her strong, and how, mom makes us these good meals. Like, I don't know. I really think that it's important for us to show that and to show that it's really important for moms and for parents in general to make them their own health a priority, because I like in the office, we see a lot of women whose kids are now like in high school or off to college, and now they have more like time per se. But then now that they're like out of that young parenting age, like, okay, now I got to make myself a priority. And so I see that and I'm like, I really want to start trying to make myself a priority right now, because your kids see that now too, you know?
Yeah.
So
And
it's
so
just
difficult.
really hard.
Yeah, it's so difficult to find that balance, because we also don't want it to be, right, kind of an all or nothing,
Yeah.
which is, I know, definitely a struggle kind of in my space, right? Because I have little kids, and they're sort of in those little kid times where we're talking about dessert often, right? And dessert isn't no, never again.
Yeah.
Right. But if I left it up to them, it would be like a dessert after every meal kind of scenario. And so a lot of the times, you know, as mothers, this is sort of top priority. And honestly, one of the first things to do is to really think about, again, yourself. What are your health goals? And sort of reflecting on kind of where you're at. One of my favorite sort of topics, I think that's super important to talk, even with my own kids, we talk about this, is understanding what we call our ping to eat. Right? So we all have that little ding that's sort of like, I'm ready to eat, right? And even with our own kids and ourselves, it's really helpful to answer this question. Why am I eating right now? Am I hungry? What does feeling hunger feel like? Hunger is a biochemical response that's coming from our fat cells and our stomach and our intestines that says, I need energy, or nope, we got plenty of food here. Let's stop. We got plenty of energy here. Stop, right? Versus this is a craving. Cravings are the I wants, right? I want chips. I want ice cream. I want cookies. I want wine, right? And it really has little to do with the brain pathway that's saying to be hungry. And it's much more of a reward system pathway. And there's many times that we can actually be full in our tummies, right? But we want other things. And so even for young kids, this can be helpful just to navigate. And I know a lot of the times I actually have the opposite problem, where my kids will like take 2 bites of dinner and want to leave the table. And we talk a lot of the time about, are you full? What does feeling full feel like? What does feeling hungry feel like, right? That 3 p.m., if we've had lunch or, you know, we've had dinner, are you really hungry? And if you're hungry, you should eat. And that's totally appropriate, right? But if we just want ice cream, right? Ice cream after every meal probably isn't a good plan for our overall sort of health and sort of making us healthier. And it can be helpful as a family to sort of go through some of these mental exercises and start just even thinking and being curious about our bodies to say, is this hungry? Is this a craving? And kind of understanding where we're at before we eat, mid-meal, and after, and sort of other things that have sort of come up.
Yeah, so I think like for me too, when you talk about that, it's just like that pause moment, because it's like, oh, I want whatever, those Oreos. So it's like, I just start eating and you don't even think about it. You're just like, and then by the time you like slow down and think about it, you're like, oh, I ate the roll, you know, or whatever.
Totally.
But it's like, I think just like before you eat, if it's not like a meal or a time, like you just need to like step back and say, okay. And I think that that's like a learned behavior and it takes time, like, especially when there's like the emotional craving or like boredom or whatever. But I think a lot of times if you just like pause, then you can identify that. I even try to do that sometimes, you know, when speaking, like take a pause before you say something, like take a pause before you eat.
Yeah.
But it's, I mean, obviously easier said than done. And I'm still learning that too. Like, it's so easy to just, give into that craving and not really identify, like, am I hungry or am I bored or am I,
the crazy part of our brain is that if we are just sort of going to that roll of Oreos, our brain doesn't even acknowledge that we've had them, right? So then it just creates this perpetual like, well, I thought I had Oreos, but then I never even registered that I did because I was like half paying attention. Now I just want some more, right? And so then it just cranks us up. So I always tell patients, if we're gonna do it, then do it. Right? Sit down, smell the Oreo, take a look, right?
Yeah.
and really enjoy the hell out of it if you're going to
Mhm.
have it. The
Yeah,
worst
instead of
thing to
just
do
careless.
is half pay attention and kind of half eat it, right?
Mhm.
And it's totally fine, I think, to say, I'm going to keep this Oreo until after the kids go to bed, right?
Yeah.
I'm going to enjoy it. I'm going to have it. I'm really going to embrace it and then move on.
Yeah.
Versus, I think, kind of not being in that space where we're kind of like half eating, right? And then our brain's sort of trying to be like, well, when am I going to get this Oreo? And then it just gets louder and louder. And
Yeah.
you're right. The whole sleep goes really quickly.
Yep. Yeah,
Yeah.
Jennifer and Rachel commented. Jennifer said, I haven't thought about that before. And then Rachel, I did a deep dive into appetite versus hunger, and it was really helpful for her. That's,
Yeah.
yeah,
Thank you so much for sharing.
really to identify that.
Yeah. And I think, again, I think that that's such a great way as moms, right, to even just have something to do with our kids, because it can feel like you're between a rock and a hard place when you're trying to eat healthy, but then there's all these restrictions and it can just sort of feel frustrating, and it can be a good avenue to go down just to sort of get started to teach our kids some sort of like healthy eating patterns.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's a good tip.
Okay, so, one place that we also like to do is we like to sort of give a little bit of a plan. And for all of our patients, we know we love our seeds. So when it can feel as though we're in that sort of cycling of we're not where we're sure to go, I don't want to be overly restrictive, but I also want sort of a plan. We think that at True Women's Healthy, and we really focus on our seeds. And we like to sort of say, these are a gentle whisper of reminders of things to do, not finger wags, right? I'm sure you can go on any social media platform and Google like exercise programs or weight loss programs, and you can find a very strict regimen. And what we hope is that, using seeds, you can use it as sort of an outline just to reflect on where your body and mind is at in terms of staying healthy. So we got to get our water, you got to get your sleep, we got to get some whole foods. You got to get a vitamin. You got to figure out some way to get some exercise, including strength training. We have to have fiber in every day. And then we really hope people are doing a mind body connection and sort of reflecting on their day and all the things that they're grateful for. And that can be really a great place to sort of get started for anyone that's out there to sort of get kickstarted on their health journey if they want to.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. We're going to go over some tips, some take-home tips for all those out there that can't come see us in Michigan. So take-home tip number 1, your weight is not your worth. Oh God, I just think this is so important. I can't say it enough. And in this space where, there's obviously people out there that are struggling with weight who are like full-on worthy individuals in this world.
Mm-hmm.
And there's people out there that are struggling with this idea that if they could get to a certain weight, that they would somehow be more worthy. We hope we get this message that your weight is not your worth and that you are, of course, so much more than that number on a scale. All right. Number 2.
100%. That gives me like chills. It's so true, I think.
Yeah.
Yes.
My number 2 favorite thing, your body writes the rules, right? So we can think that we want to be anyway, but a lot of the times our body is writing the rules, particularly as we're going through perimenopause and menopause. Meaning, if our body's tired and it needs some sleep, we have to go to sleep. I know we want to sort of stay up and maybe work harder or, watch another episode on Netflix. But if our body is tired, we have to give it rest. If our body is saying that it's going to hold on to weight no matter what, that may be the way that it is. And it's, okay to sort of just understand and be self-compassionate with where our body is at that moment. Becca, you just went through pregnancy, so your body definitely writes the rules, right?
Yep.
All the great
You're definitely not in control of a lot of things, and that's hard. I think it's every pregnancy, every situation, every person's different, and
totally.
I think that's really hard to kind of like accept that and just let your body do what it's going to do. And yeah, it's hard.
Yeah. All right. Number 3, learn self-compassion. So we actually did a whole talk on self-compassion with Ashley, our therapist. But self-compassion is sort of the art of talking to ourselves with love that we would a friend. right? And so where a lot of women go throughout their day is sometimes into really negative places, right? Like, ugh, why didn't I go to the gym today? Ugh, why did I have that extra piece of pizza at the work party? Ugh, why didn't I, do something? I thought I was going to finish these accounts today or something else and I didn't. And it's really hearing those negative words and really speaking to ourselves in a positive way, right? I
Mhm.
am worthy. I'm okay. It's okay. Almost like how we would a friend. Because if your
Mhm.
friend came to you and said, "Oh my gosh, I feel so bad. I had that extra piece of pizza." Like, what would you say?
I would say, okay, well,
You got
tomorrow's a
it,
new
girl.
day. You got it. Like,
Right.
was it good?
Yeah.
Like I wouldn't, but I think it's so hard to do to yourself. But yeah, every friend, oh, I'm struggling with this, or, I've been working really hard, but I'm not losing weight. Well, like, keep it up. You're rocking it.
Yeah.
Like, what win can you take out of, exercising? Like, you probably are feeling stronger, like, I
Right.
think that's so great. And I think self compassion, again, is really hard for women just in general to give
Mm,
yourself that grace
totally.
that you give others.
Yeah, totally. I agree. All right. Number 4. Be curious about your ping to eat, right? It can, I think that this is probably one of the most beneficial things I've learned through my weight management work, and how I feel like I've been the most effective of helping patients is to really understanding the art of slowing down and sort of paying attention and feeling where our sort of mind goes in these moments. And it can be everywhere from you can document it, right? And every hour, sort of reflecting on where you're at and writing it down to just noting in your body kind of where you're at, right?
Mm-hmm.
Before you eat and just kind of feeling where it goes. It's not about making drastic restrictive changes or not making any changes at all. It's just being curious and sort of learning to listen to our body. And that's always sort of a great place to get started. All right, number 5. Think about your milestone event and picture of self. Even if you aren't a part of our practice, it's always such a great sort of journey to sort of say to yourself, what's some event in the future that I want to see myself at? And what do I want to be like? And it can be anywhere from business goals, health goals, right? Relationship goals, and just kind of reflect on what that means. And then that can be a great place to sort of get started. And we hope that with that, you can find a little bit of that balance between, being okay with your body, but then also sort of meeting some of the health goals that you want to meet. And it's totally fine to say, you know what, my life is crazy busy. I have a ton of kids. Exercising every day is not part of that plan.
Yeah.
That's okay, right? But maybe I have some other health goals. Maybe I just want to learn to sleep better. Maybe I want to get
Mm-hmm.
some more water in and prioritize, a little bit of quiet time for myself. And that's okay too.
Yeah. Doesn't have to be all or nothing always,
Yeah.
just small things at a time.
Yeah. Well, if you as a patient would be, or a woman would love to talk to us more about your weight journey, or honestly, any other sort of health goals that you may have, you can check us out at truewomenshealth.com, and specifically our trueweightjourney.com is how you can find our weight journey program. Well, thanks so much for
Yeah.
everyone joining. Thank you, Becca.
Yeah, of course. I'm glad to do it. And thanks everybody for your comments and for listening in, and
Yeah. All right, everyone, have a good night.
see
Thanks.
ya.